What in the world did I just watch? And who is this guy? These are some of the questions that come to mind when coming across IsaacSamZ and his YouTube catalog. A quick look through his videos reveals a level of cringe that is difficult to ignore, making it hard to sit through more than just a few.
Follow the kings, had their queens on the throne, we would pop champagne.
It was easier to watch the video of Nikocado Avocado dancing on repeat because Nikocado, well, he's a whole other story. But at least he's not actively promoting harmful stereotypes about an entire continent. If you've spent a lot of time on YouTube and TikTok lately, you should have noticed the rise of degeneracy on both platforms. Normally disguised as relatable content, the cringy skits, the repetitive jokes, and the over-edited and over-emphasized punchlines are all things that viewers have grown tired of. It's almost irritable and sincerely hard to watch. There are so many other creators on both platforms that have all, in their own ways, contributed to this digital landfill of content. But IsaacSamZ? He's just built differently, in a separate category all his own. One thing that we usually see with degeneracy is that it happens over a period of time. People start out as normal content creators, then one weird video goes viral, no thanks to you guys, and the creator now sees that as what the audience wants and then leans into it hard. It is usually also traceable, like going through the creator's catalog, you'd be able to find when they pivoted into full degeneracy. Usually from then on, there's almost no saving them. But that's not the case with the creator we're discussing today. That is simply not Isaac's case. But before starting with today's video, let me introduce you to the sponsor of today's video, Venice AI. Ever wonder what ChatGPT and Claude are actually doing with your conversations? Have you ever thought about it? We all know Alexa listens to us and recommends products based on our conversations. Meta retargets us based on our browsing and engagement history. But think about what we tell these AI platforms. Our thoughts, dreams, sensitive questions, business ideas, etc. They take all this information, tie it to your identity, and then sell it to various third parties and governments. ChatGPT literally has the former director of the NSA sitting on their board right now. It took us all far too long to truly understand what social media companies were doing with our data last decade. Are we really going to make that same mistake again? This makes me really uncomfortable, but it's also hard to just give up using AI. That's why I've started using Venice AI, who is sponsoring today's video. Venice AI is a generative AI platform that is private and permissionless. Moreover, it doesn't censor your prompt. For example, let's ask ChatGPT to create an image of North Korean soldiers fighting in Ukraine. However, ChatGPT refuses to generate the requested image. On the other hand, Venice AI successfully generates it without any restrictions. Venice AI utilizes leading open source AI models to deliver text, code, and image generation to your web browser. There's no downloads, no installations of anything. Venice AI doesn't spy on you or censor the AI. Messages are encrypted, and your conversation history is stored only in your browser. I like their Pro plan because I can get a ton of upgraded features. PDF uploads for summaries or insights, ability to turn off safe mode for unhindered image generation, limitless text and high image limits. Plus, I like supporting their cause. If you want to too, and you want to use AI without fear of handing over your most intimate thoughts to a corporation or the government, you can get 20% off a Pro plan using my link, venice.ai/RKHmedia and code RKHmedia. Even his earliest videos are proof of his struggles with comedic brilliance, and there's no real track of him pivoting to degenerate content, meaning he's always been like this. So sad to see. Describing someone like IsaacSamZ as funny is not something that would typically come to mind, unless of course under duress. While this may seem like criticism of another creator, that's not the intention here. The effort and hustle are acknowledged, but when content starts to put others at risk, it becomes a real concern. On the surface, IsaacSamZ seems like just another TikToker churning out short-form skits. He plays various characters, often in scenarios that are supposed to be relatable or funny. But when you scratch the surface and you find something deeply unsettling, something so degenerate. And I'm not alone. Many viewers find his content not just unfunny, but actively harmful. Why? Because IsaacSamZ's brand of humor relies heavily on racist stereotypes, specifically targeting Africans. And what's even more bizarre, he appears to be of African descent himself. This isn't just punching down, it's self-inflicted cultural damage. Let's start with one of his most viewed YouTube shorts, the African Pets. Anyone who has been on social media long enough or has even watched a lot of TV shows should have come across this famous trope that Africans have wild animals as pets. You've probably seen movies by the likes of Leon Schuster, who in one of his movies shows an African king who had lions, tigers, elephants, and giraffes all wandering in his compound. This has been a funny trope for so long now that if you never went out of your way to read or ask questions about Africans, you would outrightly believe it, as we're now seeing with Western kids these days. In more recent times, though, we as a society have gone past lazy tropes and stereotyping, at least we're trying to. So you have to understand why it's amazing when another is trying so hard to undo all the work done as a society to get past these lazy tropes and stereotypes. And all for what? Thousands, maybe even millions of views and comments on YouTube? Is that really worth it? It's as if he hit the reverse button on progress, because just by looking at his comment section, the impact is clear. The damage is happening in real time. As you can see above, it's all mixed reactions. Some users are calling him out for his racist content, hating the stereotype, and pointing out that it's not close to the reality of things in Africa. Then we see an interesting conversation between two users. The first user says people shouldn't say Africans are not civilized because they are. Then another user, @ValentineGeorges9286, replies, "Sure, instead of throwing rocks and spears, you are shooting each other with AK-47s." Two other users reply to the first comment still, one adding that the governments in Africa are corrupt, and the other saying some people are dumb enough to believe that. And then you have people who seem to be genuinely confused, who are taking these portrayals at face value, and that's what's really dangerous. That's where the real harm is being done. And in the midst of all this chaos, there's other people just enjoying the content, as the last comment there shows a user saying he likes the way Isaac jumps after eating KFC. This is why making lazy content like this is bad. As you can see in the comments, many Western children don't have a real idea about what's going on in Africa and what the situation on the ground actually is. You notice how all their comments are vague and overgeneralized? Yes, there's violence in Africa, but guess what? And this may be shocking to you, but there is violence everywhere. That's not enough to say that a whole continent of people are just shooting themselves with AK-47s, or enough to say that all the governments are corrupt. All these statements are testaments and a reflection of the ideas of Africa in the minds of these young adults. Many of them would probably struggle to name more than 10 countries in Africa. That's how bad it is, and Isaac is just hampering on the negatives without helping matters. Now, he can make the excuse that he's actually trying to humor his audience with these outrageous takes because he's also a black guy, and from the look of things, his audience is white-dominated. But that argument flies out of the window when you realize that this is not a one-time occurrence. It didn't even happen twice or thrice. This is what his whole brand is based off. His videos have mostly been based off these outdated tropes and stereotypes. Oh, and then he's got other content.
This man has black spots on his teeth. I have never had black teeth. My teeth was white before. When I was teen, I saw a banana in the mud, and since I ate it, these black spots have remained. So we gave him a remedy for the spots on his teeth.
This is so shocking. I mean, not one African knows the meaning of Colgate.
They said this red stuff will make my teeth shine again.
Whoa! This is surely the answer to my problems. My teeth are shining like the colonizers.
Now I can say we are living in the future.
IsaacSam's content is just painfully generic. It's not funny. And that's the problem. He knows it's not funny. That's why he resorts to these exaggerated, almost animalistic movements and expressions. He's trying to compensate for the lack of actual humor by being as outrageous as possible. He even plays into this stereotype of the exotic African being filmed by National Geographic. He's self-aware enough to acknowledge the stereotype, but instead of subverting it, he embraces it. He becomes the stereotype for the amusement of who exactly? It's like he's trapped in this cycle of self-deprecation, unable to break free from the racist tropes he's built his entire brand around. One user comments to say that people who enjoy videos like this are dense and racist, adding that he could barely make it till the end of the video. And I understand that feeling. Watching this kind of content is genuinely draining. It's like being bombarded with negativity and harmful labels over and over again. I mean, just look at this video that's supposed to be about how Africans are thought of in the 21st century. And it shows Isaac playing an African man walking in a bush to say that Africa's underdeveloped. It shows him in a KFC eating chicken, oblivious of the fact that it is chicken that he's eating. Isaac does not stop there. He goes on to show the African man in a store trying to drink a can of cola and by biting through it. I guess saying that the African man is primitive and is not exposed enough to know how a can works. And the tip of the iceberg, he finally shows the African man on a call with his family back in Africa. And would you believe that the said family is literally a bunch of monkeys? Monkeys! Yeah, who thinks that's funny? Africans are monkeys. This is a worrying trope that has been a problem for decades in the battle against racism. But here we have a supposed African man trolling himself all in the name of comedy. Another one of his infamous skits, the 911 call.
911, what's your emergency?
Hello? I would like to order some KFC, please.
Excuse me. I guess you dialed in the wrong code. 911 doesn't offer KFC deliveries.
I'm not sure you understand. Please, hurry.
And I have told you! 911 is not the right code. Good day.
Oh no!
This is the 15th customer that has dialed in the wrong code today.
Listen to that accent in the video. It's a caricature, a forced, exaggerated portrayal of what a Nigerian accent sounds like. And what is the premise? That a 911 operator wouldn't understand a request for KFC as a potential cry for help? Now, many people know that calling 911 and ordering food can be a coded way to signal for help, and a way for the police to know your location if held hostage. It's a serious issue, a way for people in dangerous situations to discreetly ask for help. But IsaacSam turns it into a joke, playing on the preconceptions that Africans are dumb and can't understand. This dude Isaac was like, what if the police were just dumb and didn't understand the code? Well, a lot of people would be dead, quite literally. The implications are chilling. Not only is it disrespectful to the real struggles people face, but it also reinforces harmful generalizations about Africans and their intelligence. It's not just unfunny, it's dangerous. And it doesn't stop there. And then there's this Squid Game phase. Now, Squid Game was a global phenomenon that had the world talking about it for so long, and parodies were inevitable. Even Mr. Beast did a version of his own games, as well as a number of other creators. But IsaacSam's take on it? You guessed it correctly, more racist stereotypes.
Please, sir, I really need money. You really want to escape poverty? Why wouldn't I want to escape when I don't even have money to buy chicken, water?
In Isaac's adaptation of Squid Games, he plays an African character who doesn't understand Korean, who apparently is a beggar on the streets, and who of course fails at the simple task of cutting out a cookie shape. The humor, if you can call it that, is entirely based on the idea of the primitive African who's out of touch with modern society. Like, bro, give it a break. These jokes and gimmicks could one day be used against you. His humor is getting really dry now and is closer to being racist and offensive than it is to being funny. The roadside beggar play is one that has been largely overused and overplayed in the past across genres and art forms. But since the turn of the 21st century, we've seen it being slowly phased out. All of that doesn't bother Isaac, not at all. He so ignorantly portrays a black man as an unintelligent oaf, incapable of completing simple, low-skilled tasks, like cutting out a cookie shape, but is able to sit at a roadside begging for alms. This is Isaac's definition of humor. It is so obvious that this guy does not attend lectures on Black history, or he's just being totally ignorant. It just does not stop with Isaac. This is doing damage and contributing to the racism that still exists in society. And we're not done with his Squid Game content yet, folks, because the stereotypes just keep on coming.
You'll be rich. Games? Games? If his games are really athletic, ask Hassan. I jumped trees faster than him. Even in my village, I killed him.
He doubles down on the self-racism. We get references to killing Simba, jumping trees faster than Tarzan, all tired, offensive tropes that have been used to dehumanize Africans for centuries. And he's doing it for the views, for the clicks, for the fleeting validation of TikTok. Worst part is that this dude got 2 million subscribers for being racist to himself. Hilarious! That's a massive audience, many of whom are likely young and impressionable, because these days a 7-year-old child with access to the internet can easily see his content on YouTube or TikTok. And what message are they receiving? That it's okay to mock your own heritage, to perpetuate harmful stereotypes, as long as it gets you a few laughs, while also encouraging the others to make those jokes towards black people, most of which are quite offensive, as we've seen in the videos so far. Now, that is just wrong. No two ways about it. Young children that see his videos, maybe it's the one with lions and elephants as pets, they see that and think, oh wow, Africans actually live with wild animals? Or maybe it's the video where he's mimicking a gorilla or drinking dirty water from a stream and calling it brown water. These narratives are far too crude for kids to grasp that they're meant as humor rather than reality. Given the already limited positive representation in Africa and Africans receive in Western media, the last thing needed is a YouTuber with IsaacSamZ reach perpetuating harmful and misleading rhetoric at scale. This isn't about personal dislike, and while the content may not cause direct harm, its influence on societal perceptions is undeniable and not in a good way. Since there's no concrete way to measure the long-term effects of content like this, the best course of action is to discourage it entirely.
All these colonizers thinking you can win me in this game. I ran after Simba last week and I killed him for dinner. Fools!
그럼 시작합니다.
Again, the forced accent, the constant references to being African as if it's some kind of exotic novelty, and the colonizer's comment, while potentially attempting to be subversive, just comes across as another layer of awkward, self-deprecating humor. We get it, you're African, that's cool. But that's not really the only thing you can make content off of. And then there's this.
We just started and he's dead.
Why? Just why? Spitting on a dead body, even a fictional one, is just gratuitously disrespectful. It adds nothing to the humor, even if you can call it that. It's just crude. And it reinforces the idea that his character, this representation of an African man, is somehow less civilized, less human. And of course, we can't forget the juju magic.
So you want to kill me like these colonizers? They don't call me an African for no reason. Fufu!
Ah, yes, the classic trope of the African witch doctor, using his mystical powers to disappear. Because that's what Africans do, right? They don't use technology or logic, they just rely on juju. The black magic stereotype has long been used to belittle or dismiss African cultures, reducing their rich histories and traditions to nothing more than superstition. It promotes the idea that African societies relied solely on their ancestors or gods for breakthroughs, ignoring the real ingenuity and resilience that shaped these civilizations. IsaacSam's attempted humor with the phrase fufu as some sort of juju magic activation is a prime example of this ignorance. In reality, fufu is a staple food in many West African countries, a dough-like dish eaten with soups, not some mystical incantation. His portrayal not only reveals a complete lack of understanding of African culture, but also contributes to harmful misconceptions, all for the sake of content. This isn't comedy, it's a minstrel show for the digital age. So what's the problem here? Why am I making such a big deal out of some cringy TikToks? It's because this kind of content has real-world consequences. It normalizes racism, it reinforces harmful stereotypes, and it contributes to a culture where it's okay to mock and demean people based on their ethnicity. We've seen this before. Minstrel shows, blackface, caricatures of black people in cartoons and advertising. These were all forms of entertainment that relied on racist stereotypes. And they had a devastating impact on how black people were perceived and treated in society. Now, I don't use that term lightly. Minstrel shows were a horrific form of entertainment in the 19th and early 20th centuries, where white performers would paint their faces black and act out racist caricatures of African Americans. They were dehumanizing, degrading, and they played a significant role in perpetuating harmful stereotypes that continue to impact society today. I'm not saying IsaacSamZ is intentionally trying to recreate a minstrel show, but the effect of his content is strikingly similar. He relies heavily on exaggerated African accents, outdated tropes, and stereotypes that are frankly painful to watch. And what's perhaps most troubling is that he appears to be of African descent himself. This isn't just punching down, it's a form of self-inflicted cultural damage. It's like he's internalized these negative stereotypes and is now projecting them outwards for the amusement of others. Let's step back for a moment and talk about the broader context. IsaacSamZ is part of this larger trend of relatable content on YouTube Shorts and TikTok. The idea is to create short, easily digestible videos that tap into common experiences and emotions. And on the surface, there's nothing wrong with that. But the problem is that relatable often devolves into stereotypical. There are creators who do relatable content well. They find humor in everyday situations without resorting to cheap stereotypes or offensive tropes.
My heels are clicking towards your door. Is this one thing that got me?
Now, this is a regular occurrence that most people can relate to. This does not shame nor insult nor dehumanize anyone. It's a simple, relatable video. But there are also creators who take the easy route, who rely on lazy generalizations about different groups of people. And that's where things get really problematic. IsaacSamZ unfortunately falls squarely into the latter category. He's not just making relatable content, he's making racist content. And he's doing it under the guise of humor. He's packaging these harmful stereotypes in a way that makes them seem acceptable, even funny to a large audience. Look, I'm not trying to be the morality police. I'm not saying that all humor has to be politically correct or that we can't make jokes about sensitive topics. But there's a difference between satire and straight-up racism. There's a difference between punching up and punching down. And IsaacSamZ is consistently punching down. He's not some naive kid who doesn't know any better. He's a grown man who's making a conscious choice to create this kind of content. And he's doing it for profit. He's monetizing racism. And let's be clear, this isn't just about hurt feelings. Studies have shown that exposure to negative stereotypes can lead to prejudice, discrimination, and even violence. It can affect how people are treated in schools, in the workplace, in the justice system. According to a study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, exposure to racial stereotypes in media can lead to increased implicit bias, even in individuals who consciously reject those stereotypes. And it's even more insidious when it comes from someone who, it's believed, is part of your own group. In 2020, the American Psychological Association released a report highlighting the detrimental effects of racial stereotypes on the mental and physical health of Black individuals. The report stated that exposure to stereotypes can contribute to stress, anxiety, depression, and even cardiovascular problems. The report also said that Black men and women who reported experiencing more racial discrimination were about 25% more likely to be diagnosed with a mental disorder. We know now that it is no joke, it's a serious problem. And what's the solution? How do we deal with creators like IsaacSamZ? Do we cancel them? Do we ignore them? I don't have all the answers, but I think the first step is awareness. We need to be critical of the content we consume, especially on platforms like TikTok and YouTube Shorts, where algorithms often prioritize engagement over quality or ethical considerations. We need to call out this kind of content when we see it. Not with hate, but with constructive criticism. We need to let creators know that perpetuating racist stereotypes is not okay, even if it's just a joke. And we need to support creators who are making positive, uplifting content that celebrates diversity and challenges harmful stereotypes. This isn't just about IsaacSamZ. It's about a larger trend, a culture of online content that often prioritizes shock value and cheap laughs over substance and respect. And it's a trend we need to push back against for the sake of our own mental health and the well-being of our society. What do you think? Am I overreacting? Is IsaacSamZ just a harmless comedian? Or is he part of a larger problem? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And please be respectful of each other, even if you disagree. This is a complex issue, and we need to have a thoughtful conversation about it.